am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and today we're gonna dye some roving. Right here I have 200 grams of dry bare wool of the Andes roving. This is 100% Peruvian highland wool. And I'm gonna take this fiber, open it up, undo our little tie, and we're gonna wind it into a ball. I'm just gonna take one end, and I know I'm introducing some twist into here as I do this, and we're just gonna wind the yarn or roving around and around, creating a little ball. I'm gonna stick that end under a little bit, and this is what we're gonna be dyeing today. I have done this or something like this twice in the past. One I think was it Dyepot Weekly number 21? I think I tried to break Whitland's Violet on this. This was something a long time ago, over 400 episodes ago. And so that's the last time I tried with a type of acid dye, because food coloring, for all it's not a commercial acid dye, does function similarly to acid dyes. The other time I did something like this was when I tried to dye fiber with turmeric that I got from a Paradise Fibers kit. And there wasn't quite enough pigment to really see much change. Now, unlike with dyeing a wound ball of yarn, one thing here is that some of the end towards the center might be accessible on the top, and then the way that we've wound these are quite different from one another. And so when we dye this yarn, I'm anticipating we're gonna get some color coverage on the outside with less color towards the center. However, since this is non-superwash fiber, the chance that we'll get colors to go all the way to the center are a little bit greater than if we were dyeing superwash fiber. But I'm expecting to see some kinds of differences between these two balls. Pre-orders for the 2023 Spring Mini Skein mini-series are now available. Starting June 5th, we will have a special event with new yarn dyeing videos every night featuring mini skein sets and even sock blanks. You can pre-order yarn sets that come with 100 grams of yarn, 5 20-gram mini skeins, a lot of fun extras. They're all around a very special to me theme. And there's a lot of add-ons for full skeins and those sock blanks I mentioned. You can find more information in the ChemKnits Creations Etsy shop, and you'll find links down in the video description. I have been in a dyeing by feel mood lately. Currently in the Dyebath, there's probably approximately 20 cups of water. There's at least 16. I've added no acid yet, but I'm now going to add some. Let's do 4 tablespoons of white vinegar. And now I'm gonna come in with some dyes. Right here I have just a little bit of some true black from Dharma. Leftover from a project, way less than 1 gram of dye. And then I added water back into the cup. And I did that so I could rinse out the remnants of some purple pop. And you can see me rinsing the outside. And there was only a couple of milliliters of this purple pop dye left in here. I also have a little bit of some diluted Fluorescent Fuschia, which is still related to that purple pop. And I'm gonna rinse out this bottle. Here we go. We're leaving some no dye behind and making a fun mixture that hopefully will break. Okay, I wanna go a little bit bigger with the pink. This is some dye that originally I had measured out 1 gram of Fluorescent Fuschia, but I have used that on 2 other projects. So the most that we could conceivably have in here was probably 1/2 gram, probably even less than that. And this is a pigment that takes time to absorb, and I am really hoping here that I'm not using too much and that we're not going to have a bleeder and end up with a felted mess when I try to wash. So right now we've got something that is like pink. There's a little bit of dark. Ooh, do I want to add something else? I want to add a little bit more of a non-fluorescent color. So I'm adding, just with some healthy squirts here, a mixture of Dharma Extreme Blue, but it also had a little bit of Fluorescent Fuschia in it. And so a little more pink. but mostly just a little bit more blue, so we have a little bit more color that might strike to the outside. But we'll see what this does. I really didn't add that much. Let's add a little bit more. Right? Doesn't hurt. I think this bottle only had 250 milliliters. Like, it's a 250 milliliter bottle, so there wasn't that much that we had added. But now I'm gonna stir things up. Yeah, we're looking more purpley in here with our nice little mixture. Purple Pop does have some blues in it as well, but it is mostly the pink. But now we've got our balls of Roving, and we're gonna add them in. Now, it's gonna take time for them to soak down. And I can tell that they are slowly soaking up liquid. And in part of it, this fiber is going to act a little bit like a sponge because since it's starting out dry, as it is soaking in the liquid, it's going to pull that liquid through the entire ball. And so if some of these colors are striking a little bit faster, then maybe they'd stick to the outside while some of the others go to the inside. If we had started out with wet fiber, we likely would see a lot less color towards the center than I think we will see here. Let's add this in. And we're going slowly. The Dyebath is warm, but it's not super hot yet. But we should see differences. And even if we don't see color breaking, and by breaking I mean that we see more pinks in the center, more of the blues and a little bit of black towards the outside. Even if we don't observe color breaking in here, now that the fiber is pretty well saturated, it could still be a little wet, dry towards the center, I don't know. But now we've got a lot of pigment still here on the outside. More of that should bind to the accessible areas of our roving here than it might to the center. So I do want to add, that's just 2 tablespoons. 3, 4, 5, 6 tablespoons of white vinegar. When I poured a little on over here, I did see some of those pinks move and I saw some blues there. Now I'm trying to not do a ton of agitation, but I am stirring things up and sort of moving some of this liquid over from the sides. And oh, I'm very excited to see what will happen. But now we're gonna need to wait. I am gonna put a cover on this and leave the heat on low. This is gonna be a slow process because we don't have a lot of surface area in here. A lot of times roving might take longer for the dyes to strike than yarn. Anyway, but given that it's wound in a ball, it's just gonna take even more time for things to strike. So I think I'll come back in approximately 20 minutes and we'll check in on things. But I will check in off camera to make sure we're not on like a rolling boil or something that could cause felting to our fiber. Okay, it's been 20 minutes. I don't usually cover my yarn up, but one of the reasons why I decided to do this today is just so that way we can get heat at this top. Now, what is left are a lot of pinks, but we have this gorgeous blue on the outside. I was tilting because I was curious if it's just the top, but it is a bit all over, but it's just when you look down, you see a lot of those pinks. This is gonna take some time. We've got the heat on low. I haven't had to adjust it much, but again, it's gonna take time. I'm curious, okay, if I pour the vinegar just directly on top of the roving, I'm not seeing like it just shift more blue. So I think the pinks are starting to strike. It's just gonna be slow. But I love this like slate blue kind of navy thing we have going on up here. I wonder how far that's going in. I'm gonna let this heat, I think for 45 minutes, and we'll keep it on this low heat. And then at that point, if there are a lot of pinks, I might consider adding in some kind of yarn mop to help soak up the pink, but we'll see where we are in about 45 minutes. It's been 45 minutes. I don't know, everyone. don't know. I mean, you can even see like down to the bottom of the pot, there's a lot of pink in there. A lot of the other color has definitely absorbed to the wool. I think what I'm gonna do before we deal with any kind of yarn mop or anything like that, I'm gonna turn off the heat, leave this in here to cool completely. Maybe we'll suck up some of those pinks, maybe we won't, and we'll need to rinse it out. But I'm going to leave this because I guess like just letting it cool is the best chance that we have for some of those colors finally binding. And I would like as much of this pink to go into this roving as possible. I think we just need to be really, really patient. It's been 2 days. I didn't need to wait necessarily 2 days, but yesterday I couldn't film. And you can see that most of the pink is in our fiber. So I'm gonna remove this from the pot and gently press down. Ooh, we ended up with like a navy on the outside, and I definitely see some pinks peeking through. Over here is just a bath of cold water. It's winter, so I didn't use the coldest water that I have. Gently press. The thing I don't want to do is rub. So that's why I'm doing a gentle press, because we've got all this pink here, which means we might see some bleeding when we rinse this fiber, but also maybe not. So I'm gonna soak our fiber in here for, goodness, I don't know. Again, I'm gently pressing it down because I was curious if that would cause any bleeding. I'm debating, like I both want to unravel these a bit, but I also don't because they're a little bit protected right now. So let's leave it for 15 minutes and then we'll see. We're gonna go really, really slow here today. But just look at this breaking that you can see already. We do have some great pinks. Most of everything we added, the blues, the black, most of that gave us this navy on the outside. And we're definitely gonna have bits of that darker color throughout because of the way things are wound. But I'm very curious to get a look at this. Let's see. Okay, when I press it down, did you see the color change a little bit? But really, it's not very bad. Okay, I am going to remove the fiber, lightly press. We're gonna set this on the counter. We're gonna do the same here. Okay, we can see that there is a little bit of some bleeding. Not bad. I do want to open up the fiber. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go and replace this water. But in the meantime, I want to open this up, which means I need to find the end. All right, so even on, I guess, the outside edge, we still have hints of pink. Because you'll see in here, we've got pink on one side, but dark on the other. So our darkest colors aren't even going through the entire strand. I suppose I could have wound this a little bit lighter, but we've got a very subtle, almost gradient going on here, because as we get towards the center, then all of a sudden we've got these strands that are much more pink and have a lot less of the deepest color. And let's just open up this one as well. I'm expecting that we'll see something very, very similar. Now, one of the big reasons for opening this up is that I don't think that the fiber would be able to dry if we left it in the ball form. And also it would be really hard to wash the fiber towards the other end. But we do have some kind of gradient here. It's very, very subtle though. Okay, I'm going to roughly, and by roughly I mean very gently, fold that in half. Then I'm gonna come over with the basin and I'm gonna add just 2 drops of some dish soap. Soap isn't 100% necessary, I don't think, but also the caution with soap is that it can cause agitation. So you do want to be careful. But I'm gonna bring in this fiber and we're gonna let it soak in here. And I am gently pressing so that way it'll release anything soaked in. And we're gonna let this soak, I guess also for 10 minutes or so. It's not gonna hurt to let it soak for a while. And then we'll be back. All right, let's see how we are doing. Oh, really good. There's maybe a hint of something in there, but that is not bad. Okay, let's go over to the sink so that way I can actually dump this out. Okay, so the way I'm gonna do this is to hold the fiber aside, pour out the liquid, and then refill this just with cool water. I don't want it to be too hot. And after this refill, we're gonna go and put the fiber through my spin dryer, but I'll show you what the water looks like when I remove the yarn. If you have fiber that is a big bleeder, sometimes I recommend that you wash it more after you've spun it. Mainly because you want to help set the twist and stuff anyway, and so the fibers are a little more protected. I'm still gonna let it soak a little bit, just to, I mean, there's not that much soap, so I don't think it's gonna need another rinse after this, but I'm gonna let it soak for a little bit and then we'll remove it. All right. Actually, I'm gonna remove 100 grams at a time if I can. I wasn't sure how tangled things were. All right. I am not really removing a lot of the liquid here. I'm gonna go put this in my spin dryer, and then I'm gonna come back for the other. And you can see that we don't have any more bleeding, which is great. So I'm now gonna go hang up all the fiber to dry, and then we'll come back and take a closer look at it. I need to spread out the roving, but when I saw this yarn dry, or this fiber dry on my drying rack, I was amazed how bright this pink feels. Because I guess I didn't expect it to feel that bright still dry when I first looked at it. I still need to fluff up the fiber a little bit because there's a little bit of twist still in it. But here you can see the gradients, and they're not matched. I think even if I had wound it into one big ball with all 200 grams of fiber, the gradients wouldn't be matched because one of them, if it was underneath the other, the colors wouldn't penetrate nearly as deeply as when you have something like 2 strands held together of yarn for a sock blank. Roving is just too thick for that to work super well. When I say I need to fluff up the fiber, what do I mean? I mean, this is very fluffy right here, but what I mean is taking it, removing that little bit of twist, and if anything feels matted, which this really doesn't, just give it a little bit of a fluff. And as we're doing this, you can see that the dye has penetrated all the way to the center of the fiber. So we're not seeing like white in the center and just color on the outside. Unless you consider the white to be our pink. But that's one of the reasons a lot of this twist was introduced when we were winding the ball. But that's one of the reasons why I picked a color combination that I thought would break, because I knew that a lot of the color would just stay on the outside of our ball. And so I wanted to feel the contrast. I just didn't entirely appreciate that we were going to end up with navy and pink. This seems to be a very popular combination for me to make, but it is beautiful. And you can see that's just a little bit of a light fluffing. And we've got fluffed on the right versus unfluffed on the left, just in case you were curious. Now, the fiber will get compressed some again once I braid it, and then if it goes through shipping, that also could squish and compress it a little bit. But for taking pictures, I like to have done this. And now that they're both fluffed, I'm gonna go braid it. It's funny how I always call it a braid when really it's a crochet chain, but you know what I mean, right? Now the nice thing is that when it comes to roving, it doesn't matter if it's perfectly matched, because you could use all 200 grams to make one really long gradient, maybe that you chain ply, or you can make a 2-ply yarn, spin each of them, and then ply it together. They'll be mostly navy, then variegated with some Berber pulling, and then mostly pink at the other end. It would be lovely. there are many options of ways that you could blend these together. Or you could take, go back and forth between the two of them. I guess spin part of one, spin part of the other. I guess that goes along with that chain plying thing I said, but still, there's many options of what you could do here. Whether you want it to be more of a gradient or you want to have something a little bit more repeating. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and I really hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you would like to see me dye more roving, please let me know down in the comments below. I'm happy to explore different techniques, revisit things I've done in the past, or just in general try new things. I'm always up for trying new things and dyeing new fiber types. I don't often have roving in my Etsy shop, but I do occasionally have some roving that I've dyed in one of my videos. And so you can find more at the ChemKnits Creations Etsy shop. I'll have a link down in the video description. In general, the shop is filled with hundreds of skeins of hand-dyed yarn. Whatever roving I do add tends to go pretty quickly because as I mentioned, I dye a lot more yarn than I do unspun fiber. But anyway, I just adore the way that these colors came out. This worked so well. And yeah, thank you so much for watching.